The massive chamber of the Galactic Council falls silent as Ambassador Thomas Reeve steps forward. The human looks tiny compared to the towering alien representatives that surround him on all sides of the amphitheater. Thousands of different species watch from their designated platforms, many whispering in their native tongues about the primitive species that dares address them. The Supreme Arbiter, a crystalline being named Xylox, looms over Thomas from a hovering dais. Its body radiates blue light that grows brighter as it speaks, voice resonating through the chamber. The Council recognizes Earth's representative. Xylox announces, "You stand accused of violating multiple interstellar protocols and threatening established borders. Your species has barely achieved faster-than-light travel, yet you dare to challenge the rules that have maintained peace for millennia. How do you respond to these charges?" Thomas straightens his shoulders, his expression calm despite the gravity of the situation. The holographic displays around him showcase destroyed alien vessels and territorial disputes near Earth's modest 11-system territory. Instead of appearing intimidated, he taps his wrist device, and the chamber's displays suddenly change. "Honored Council," Thomas begins, his voice steady. "Earth does not recognize these charges because Earth has been systematically attacked for the past 3 solar cycles." The chamber erupts in protests as new images appear. Dozens of Earth outposts destroyed, colony ships ambushed, and communication beacons sabotaged, data streams alongside each image, authenticated with timestamps and spatial coordinates. "Humanity has lost over 2,000 lives to unprovoked attacks," Thomas continues as the Council tries to regain order. "We've identified vessels from 17 different Council species involved in these operations." Xylox's crystalline form flashes with intense energy. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador. What evidence?" "We've already transmitted the evidence to your secure networks," Thomas interrupts, causing another wave of outrage at the human's audacity. "Our quantum-encrypted data packages contain sensor readings, weapons signatures, and pilot communications from the attacking vessels." The Dravian representative, a 6-limbed diplomat named Morex, moves forward. His scaled skin shimmers with iridescent colors as he gestures dismissively with 3 of his arms. "Even if these attacks occurred, what does Earth intend to do? Your species is barely interstellar. You control merely 11 systems compared to the thousands under Council protection." Thomas smiles, though there's no warmth in it. "That brings me to why I'm here." He activates a final hologram, a simple message in the standard galactic language. "This is Earth's final warning. Stop attacking human territories immediately, or humanity declares war." Laughter ripples through the chamber until Thomas continues. "You mistake our restraint for weakness. You mistake our limited expansion for inability." His voice drops lower, compelling everyone to listen closely. "In 3 standard rotations, if these attacks continue, we will demonstrate exactly why humans were quarantined for so long before being allowed to join interstellar society." The laughter dies as Thomas removes a small device from his pocket. This contains historical records of Earth's internal conflicts, what we call wars. Study them carefully before deciding if you wish to continue your campaign against us. As he places the device on the central platform, the Council's security systems immediately trigger, encasing it in a containment field. "It's not a weapon," Thomas says with a grim smile. "Just history. Our history. And possibly your future." The chamber falls into shocked silence. Back on the diplomatic vessel, Thomas rejoins his team. Director Elena Volkov, Earth's chief strategist, waits with Admiral Jackson, commander of Earth's hidden defensive fleet. "How did they take it?" Elena asks, her fingers dancing across multiple data screens as she monitors reactions across the galactic information networks. "About as expected," Thomas sighs, loosening his formal collar. Disbelief, amusement, then concern. "Did you track the neural readings?" Admiral Jackson nods, his weathered face grim. "The Dravians showed recognition patterns when you mentioned the attacks. They're definitely involved, probably leading the whole operation." "And the quantum transmitter?" Thomas asks. "Successfully delivered," Elena confirms. "It's already bypassing their security protocols. We'll have access to their secure networks within the hour." Thomas walks to the observation window. The Council station hangs in space before them, a massive construction of interlocking rings surrounding a central sphere, home to representatives from over 6,000 worlds. Ships of all sizes and configurations move around it like insects around a hive. They really have no idea what they've started, do they? He says quietly. Admiral Jackson joins him at the window. Humanity spent centuries killing each other before we learned better. These species, they've had peace for so long they've forgotten what real conflict looks like. They think because we only control 11 systems that we're weak, Elena adds, joining them. They don't understand that we've been deliberately slow in our expansion, focusing on quality rather than quantity. Thomas nods. The Dravian Consortium has been undermining us since first contact. They control most of the interstellar shipping lanes and see our new drive technology as a threat to their monopoly. The attacks will continue, Admiral Jackson says with certainty. The Dravians won't back down. They've invested too much in trying to stop our expansion. Then in 3 days we show them exactly what humanity is capable of, Thomas replies, his expression hardening. Operation Lighthouse is ready? Elena nods. All assets are in position. The moment the deadline expires, we can activate everything simultaneously. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Thomas says, though his tone suggests he doesn't believe his own words. We've prepared for this possibility since we first detected alien signals a century ago. Before we even had spacecraft, Jackson adds with a grim chuckle. Humanity's paranoia finally pays off. Their conversation is interrupted as the ship's AI announces an incoming transmission. The holographic display shows Xylox, the supreme arbiter. Ambassador, the crystalline being says, its light patterns conveying what Thomas recognizes as concern. The Council requests additional information about these alleged attacks. Some members find your evidence concerning. Thomas exchanges glances with his team before responding. I'll provide full documentation, Supreme Arbiter. But I must emphasize that our ultimatum stands. 3 days. After the transmission ends, Admiral Jackson shakes his head. They're stalling, probably giving the Dravians time to prepare a major strike. Elena checks her screens. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to hit New Terra. 7 million colonists, minimal visible defenses. Exactly the soft target they would expect, Thomas nods. They have no idea what's waiting for them. As the diplomatic vessel breaks orbit from the Council station, Thomas watches the massive structure recede in the view screen. Thousands of worlds represented there, most of whom have never known true warfare. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting, evolving, adapting to conflict. And then when they finally achieved peace among themselves, they looked to the stars, only to find new threats waiting. Send a message to Earth Command, Thomas instructs. Tell them the countdown has begun. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace across known space. In 3 days, they would learn why humans had been feared enough to be quarantined for decades before being reluctantly admitted to galactic society. In 3 days, they would learn why that fear was justified. The Council archives were supposed to be impenetrable. No unauthorized access had ever been recorded in the 3,000-year history of the Galactic Council. Yet here was Director Elena Volkov, human strategist, browsing through its most classified sections as easily as if she were reading a public message board. You need to see this, Elena says, gesturing to Ambassador Thomas. Her fingers sweep through holographic displays showing thousands of communications between Council members. They've been planning this campaign against us for years. Thomas leans closer, his eyes narrowing as he reads the decoded messages. The diplomatic vessel's secure room is bathed in the blue glow from the data screens, illuminating the grim expressions of Earth's representatives. The Dravians have been leading it all along, Thomas says, pointing to a particular message thread. Look at this. They've been coordinating attacks from 17 different species, all designed to look random and unconnected. Admiral Jackson crosses his arms. This goes higher than we thought. Half the senior council is involved. Elena sorts through more files, bringing up charts and strategic assessments. They're afraid of us, Thomas. Look at these threat assessments. They've been monitoring Earth since before we achieved spaceflight. The room falls silent as a new document appears on the main screen. A classified council directive dated nearly a century earlier, when humanity first detected alien radio signals. The Quarantine Directive, Thomas reads aloud. Species 7291C, designation human, exhibits unusually rapid technological development combined with high aggression markers. Recommend isolation protocol until behavioral modification can be implemented or containment becomes necessary. Admiral Jackson laughs bitterly. Behavioral modification? They were planning to change us all along. The quarantine wasn't to protect us from them, Elena realizes. It was to protect them from us while they decided what to do about humanity. Thomas continues reading through the documents, his expression darkening. The Dravians pushed for immediate intervention. They wanted to limit our technological development before we achieved interstellar capability. And when the Council finally decided to make contact, Elena adds, it was only because they thought they could control our expansion. The ship's AI interrupts with an urgent message. Incoming transmission from Council security. The holographic display shifts to show the stern face of Commander Vexel, a towering reptilian being with ridged armor plates covering his head and shoulders. As Chief of Council Security, his authority extends throughout Council space. Ambassador Reeve, Vexel says, his voice deep and formal. The Council requires your presence for further questioning regarding your accusations. A security detail has been dispatched to escort you. Thomas keeps his expression neutral. I'll be ready to meet them at the docking bay. After the transmission ends, Admiral Jackson immediately moves to a weapons locker. They're coming to detain you. We should prepare for... Thomas holds up a hand. No, this is exactly what we need. If they place us under protective custody, it puts us right in the heart of their security operations. Elena looks concerned. The quantum transmitter is still extracting data. If they sweep the ship, they won't find anything, Thomas assures her. The technology is beyond their detection capabilities. Continue the operation while I'm with the Council. If they're moving against us now, it means they're planning something big. A short time later, Thomas stands at the docking port as the Council security vessel connects with their diplomatic ship. 6 armored guards enter, led by Commander Vexel himself. Ambassador, Vexel says with a formal bow that does little to mask the tension in his posture. The Council appreciates your cooperation. Thomas nods politely. The Council should appreciate Earth's patience more. As Thomas is escorted away, Elena and Admiral Jackson return to their data analysis, now with access to the most secure Council networks. Look at this, Elena says, pulling up fleet movement orders. They're repositioning ships toward New Terra just as we predicted. Admiral Jackson studies the tactical displays. The Dravians are leading the assault force. 3 heavy cruisers and supporting vessels. A substantial commitment. Elena's fingers fly across the interface. I'm forwarding this to Earth Command. It's time to activate the defensive grid on New Terra. Jackson nods. They think they're hitting a minimally protected colony. They have no idea what's waiting for them. At Council headquarters, Thomas is led through towering hallways of shimmering materials that seem to shift and flow. Aliens of countless forms move about their business, many stopping to stare at the human. Most have never seen one in person before. Commander Vexel escorts Thomas to a small, sterile room. You will wait here. The Senior Council will convene to discuss your evidence. After Vexel leaves, Thomas sits calmly, appearing relaxed despite being effectively a prisoner. He knows that elsewhere in the massive station, crucial conversations are taking place. In the Senior Council's private chamber, 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy debate humanity's future. The evidence they presented is concerning, says Trelex, a gaseous entity contained within a floating mechanical shell. If these attacks truly occurred, they did not occur as presented, interrupts Morex, the Dravian representative. Humans are deceptive by nature. They manipulated the data. Xylox, the supreme arbiter, pulsates with energy. Our analysis teams are verifying the human claims. But I must ask, why would they fabricate such accusations? Morex's scales ripple with agitation. To justify their own military buildup. Since joining the galactic community, they have restricted our inspection teams. They claim to have only basic defenses in their 11 systems, yet they refuse full disclosure. Because they recognize the threat against them, comes a new voice. Alar, the ancient ambassador from the Selenite Collective, rarely speaks in council meetings, making the chamber fall silent when he does. His crystalline body, similar to Xylox's but aged to a deep amber color, glows softly. I warned this council 80 cycles ago that quarantining the humans would only make them more dangerous. Morex gestures dismissively with 3 arms. The Dravian Consortium has maintained peace in the shipping lanes for 1,000 years. These humans develop new drive technology and suddenly expect to bypass all established protocols. Is that what this is about? Xylox asks, light patterns shifting to indicate surprise. Their propulsion technology? Before Morex can respond, a junior aide rushes in, approaching Xylox with urgent data. The Supreme Arbiter's light patterns shift rapidly as he absorbs the information. "This meeting is suspended," Xylox announces. "We have confirmed reports of a major fleet movement toward human space. Dravian vessels along with ships from 6 other Council species." All eyes turn to Morex, who straightens defiantly. "Preventative measures only." The humans threatened war. Meanwhile, in his holding room, Thomas receives a discreet message from Elena through his neural implant. Fleet confirmed moving against New Terra. Deadline, 19 hours remaining. Thomas closes his eyes briefly. They hadn't even waited for the 3-day ultimatum to expire, just as expected. Time to show them what humanity has been hiding, he subvocalizes. The message traveling securely back to the diplomatic vessel. On New Terra, 7 million human colonists go about their daily lives, seemingly unaware of the approaching danger. The planet appears minimally defended, a few orbital platforms, a small planetary defense force. Exactly the soft target the Dravians believe it to be. Beneath the surface, however, automated systems begin to activate. Deep underground bunkers power up. Orbital defense platforms that had appeared dormant begin running silent system checks. Disguised installations hidden in mountain ranges and under oceans prepare weapon systems that no Council inspection team had ever detected. Back on the diplomatic vessel, Elena receives confirmation of defensive readiness. New Terra is prepared, she tells Admiral Jackson. Operation Lighthouse is in final countdown. All sleeper agents across Council space are standing by. Jackson nods grimly. Humanity spent centuries preparing for extraterrestrial threats even before we knew they existed. Now we'll see if our paranoia was justified. Elena looks troubled. This isn't how first contact was supposed to go. We hoped for peaceful cooperation. That was always the first choice, Jackson agrees. But we prepared for the worst-case scenario anyway. That's what humans do. In his holding room, Thomas waits patiently, knowing that events are now in motion that will forever change humanity's place in the galactic community. For better or worse, the careful facade that Earth had maintained since first contact, the appearance of a modestly capable species with limited technology, was about to be shattered. 3,000 years of peace, Thomas murmurs to himself. They've forgotten what real conflict looks like. Humanity hadn't forgotten. Humanity never forgets. The Dravian attack fleet drops out of hyperspace near New Terra, weapon systems powering up immediately. 8 massive warships and 16 support vessels form a battle formation that has conquered dozens of worlds in the consortium's 1,000-year history. Fleet Commander. Zax observes the blue-green planet on his view screen, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Scan for defenses, he orders. Minimal orbital platforms detected, his sensor officer reports. Standard colonial defenses only. No significant fleet presence, Zax nods, exactly as expected. Humans had spread themselves too thin, claiming 11 systems but lacking the resources to defend them properly. This would be a swift operation, a show of force to remind the upstart species of their proper place in the galactic order. Open a channel, Zax commands. Let us follow protocol and demand their surrender before we begin. Meanwhile, in the Council holding room, Thomas sits calmly when the door suddenly slides open. Commander Vexel enters, accompanied by 4 armed guards. Ambassador, Vexel says stiffly. The Supreme Arbiter requests your presence immediately. Thomas stands, straightening his diplomatic uniform. I trust this means the Council has confirmed our evidence? Vexel's reptilian features remain impassive. A Dravian battle fleet has been detected approaching one of your colonies. The Council is concerned. Thomas allows himself a thin smile. Just as I warned. The 3-day deadline hasn't even expired. As they walk through the massive corridors of the Council station, Thomas observes the increased security presence and the nervous energy among the various alien species. News of the fleet movement has clearly spread. The Council chamber is in chaos when they arrive. Representatives from hundreds of worlds talk over each other, demanding explanations. The senior Council members sit in their elevated positions, attempting to maintain order. Xylox's crystalline form pulses with bright energy as Thomas is brought before him. Ambassador Reeve, a Dravian fleet approaches your colony of New Terra. They claim this is merely a security operation, but the size of their force suggests otherwise. Thomas stands straight, addressing not just Xylox but the entire chamber. The attacks I warned you about have begun, exactly as predicted. The 3-day deadline I provided was generous. Too generous, it seems. Morex, the Dravian representative, gestures angrily with multiple limbs. This is absurd. The fleet is conducting a standard security sweep after your provocative threats. With 24 warships? Thomas asks coolly. Against an agricultural colony? The chamber falls silent as a massive holographic display activates in the center, showing real-time footage from New Terra. The Dravian fleet is clearly visible, moving into attack formation. We are receiving a transmission from the human colony, a council technician announces. The display shifts to show a human woman in a simple administrator's uniform. Governor Mackenzie of New Terra looks calm despite the massive fleet approaching her world. Dravian vessels, she says firmly. You have entered sovereign human space without authorization. Reverse course immediately. Fleet Commander Zax appears on a split screen, his mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was amusement. Governor, your world is surrounded. Your defenses are insufficient. Surrender your colony to temporary consortium control, and no harm will come to your people. Governor Mackenzie doesn't flinch. Commander, I will give you one opportunity to withdraw. Your scans are incomplete. You do not understand what you're facing. In the council chamber, the representatives watch in tense silence. Thomas stands impassively, making no attempt to intervene. Xylox turns to him. Ambassador, your colony is threatened. Do you not wish to negotiate on their behalf? Thomas shakes his head. New Terra will handle this situation. Watch and learn why humanity was quarantined for so long. On screen, Fleet Commander Zax gives the order. Begin the operation. Disable their orbital platforms. The Dravian ships fire, energy beams striking the seemingly minimal defense satellites around New Terra. The platforms appear to explode in spectacular fashion. A ripple of concerned murmurs passes through the council. Chamber! Ambassador! Xylox says urgently. Your people. Thomas raises a hand. Wait. On screen, Governor Mackenzie sighs. You were warned. She presses a control on her desk. Activating Prometheus protocol. Suddenly, the destroyed defense platforms reappear. The explosions had been merely holographic decoys. Dozens more platforms decloak in orbit, far more advanced than anything the Council has seen from humans before. From the planet's surface, hidden installations activate. From under oceans, mountain ranges, and seemingly ordinary agricultural complexes, defensive systems emerge. In the Council chamber, aliens of 1,000 species watch in shock as New Terra transforms from an apparently vulnerable colony to a heavily fortified world in seconds. Fleet Commander Zax stares in disbelief. Impossible. Our scans detected nothing like this. Governor Mackenzie's expression remains calm. Your final warning, Commander. Withdraw immediately. Zax recovers from his surprise, mandibles clicking rapidly. A clever deception, but our fleet still outmatches your defenses. All vessels engage! The Dravian ships fire again, only to have their energy weapons absorbed by previously invisible shield systems. Before they can fire a second volley, the human defense platforms respond. Rather than explosive weaponry, they emit focused energy pulses that sweep over the Dravian vessels. Ship after ship suddenly goes dark, power systems failing. What is happening? Morex demands, watching his species' mighty warships drift powerless in space. Targeted electromagnetic pulse technology, Thomas explains calmly. It disables electronic systems without destroying the ships or harming their crews. Your vessels will regain minimal power in approximately 1 hour, enough for life support and to begin limping home. The Council representatives murmur in amazement. The technology to selectively disable systems with such precision was thought to be theoretical, not practical. Xylox's crystalline form pulses with rapid patterns of light. Ambassador, your colony clearly possesses military technology far beyond what Earth has disclosed to the Council. New Terra is just one colony, Thomas replies. One of 11, each with similar defensive capabilities. Morex points accusingly with 3 limbs. You have deceived the Council. Hidden your true military strength. Thomas turns to face the Dravian. And you have orchestrated attacks against our people for years. The difference is that we have proof of your actions while we have merely withheld information about our capabilities. This changes the balance of power, Morex begins, but is interrupted by urgent messages coming to multiple Council representatives. Across council space, something extraordinary is happening. On 17 different worlds, those involved in the anti-human campaign, critical systems are experiencing unexplained failures. Transportation networks freeze, communication arrays broadcast only static, financial systems report catastrophic errors. A council security officer rushes into the chamber. Supreme Arbiter, we are receiving reports of widespread system failures across multiple worlds. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems all experiencing critical malfunctions. Theory. Chamber erupts in chaos as representatives receive urgent communications from their homeworlds. Thomas stands calmly at the center of the storm. He raises his voice just enough to be heard above the din. Operation Lighthouse has begun. Xylox focuses intently on the human. Explain yourself, Ambassador. For decades, you've allowed humanity to establish trade missions, diplomatic outposts, and cultural exchanges across council space. Thomas begins. Did you never wonder why we were so eager to send our people everywhere, even to worlds with little strategic value? Understanding dawns in Xylox's light patterns. Your people, their agents? Thomas nods. Sleeper agents positioned throughout galactic civilization. Not to commit violence. Humans aren't the barbarians you believe us to be. They've activated to demonstrate our capabilities by temporarily disabling key systems. This is an act of war. Morek shouts. No, Thomas counters. This is a demonstration. Not one living being has been harmed. Not one structure has been damaged. Every affected system can be restored completely once the attacks against humanity cease. As if to emphasize his point, the main display shows the Dravian fleet around New Terra, disabled but intact, crews unharmed. Xylox's form pulses with rapid patterns that suggest deep concern. How is this possible? Our security protocols were designed by species that have known peace for thousands of years, Thomas finishes for him. Humanity evolved differently. Our history is marked by conflict, by the constant need to adapt, to overcome, to survive against threats. Thomas paces slowly in the center of the chamber, all eyes upon him. When we first discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we hoped for peaceful contact. But we prepared for the worst. While you watched us develop spaceflight, we were already developing countermeasures against potential threats. He gestures to the displays showing disabled Dravian ships and failing systems across multiple worlds. This is merely a fraction of our capability. A warning shot, if you will. The council chamber remains silent after Xylox's question. All eyes focus on Ambassador Thomas Reeve, the representative of a species that has just demonstrated power no one believed they possessed. What does Earth want? Thomas repeats thoughtfully. The same thing we've wanted since we joined the galactic community. Peaceful coexistence and fair treatment. He walks slowly around the central platform, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of worlds. The human appears remarkably calm for someone who has just turned galactic politics upside down. We never wanted conflict, Thomas continues. Earth spent centuries consumed by war before finally achieving global peace. We know the cost of violence better than most species here. Morex, the Dravian representative, rises from his seat, all 6 limbs trembling with barely controlled rage. You infiltrated our security. You planted agents throughout council space. You developed military technology in secret. Thomas turns to face him directly. And you orchestrated attacks against our colonies. You sabotaged our ships. You killed our people. With a gesture, Thomas activates the central display, showing images of destroyed human outposts and the recovered fragments of weapons used, all bearing Dravian manufacturing signatures. The difference, Thomas says quietly, is that when we responded, we chose to demonstrate our capabilities without taking lives. The Dravian fleet at New Terra, every crew member is unharmed. The system's disruptions across 17 worlds, temporary and non-destructive. Xylox's crystalline form pulses with light patterns indicating deep thought. You could have responded with destructive force, yet you chose not to. Why? Because that's not who we are anymore. Thomas answers simply. Humanity learned from its violent past. We developed these capabilities hoping never to use them, as deterrents, not as weapons of first resort. Around the chamber, the mood shifts subtly. Fear remains, but curiosity begins to emerge among many representatives. What happens now? Asks Tralex, the gaseous entity. You've demonstrated your power. What are your demands? Thomas shakes his head. Not demands. Proposals. First, an immediate cessation of all covert operations against human territories and interests. Second, a full investigation into the attacks that have already occurred, with appropriate consequences for those responsible. He pauses, looking directly at Morex. And third, recognition of humanity's right to develop and utilize our technology without interference, including our new drive systems. Morex's scales flush with color. The drive technology threatens the entire established shipping network. It would collapse economies across 1,000 worlds. Or, Thomas counters, it could revolutionize trade, making goods more accessible to worlds currently marginalized by high transport costs. Change can be disruptive, but it can also create new opportunities. Lieutenant Ford, the human who had been disguised as Commander Vexil, steps forward. Ambassador, we're receiving reports from Earth Command. The system's disruptions have proven the concept, but maintaining them is causing strain on our agents. They recommend moving to Phase 2. Thomas nods. Proceed. Across Council space, the mysterious systems failures suddenly begin to resolve themselves. Power grids stabilize. Communication networks clear. Transportation systems resume normal operation. In the Council chamber, representatives receive updates from their homeworlds, expressions of relief spreading. A demonstration only, Thomas explains. As I said, no permanent damage. Your technical teams will find no trace of how it was accomplished. Our methods are beyond current Council technology. Xylox's light patterns shift rapidly. You control these operations directly, even across such distances? Thomas allows himself a small smile. Humanity has developed certain capabilities that we've kept private. Quantum entanglement communications is merely one of them. A murmur passes through the chamber at this casual revelation. Practical quantum entanglement for communication had eluded Council scientists for centuries. Ambassador, Xylox says, his tone more respectful than before. The Council must deliberate on your proposals. This situation is unprecedented. Thomas bows slightly. Of course, but remember, the Dravian fleet remains disabled near New Terra. If there is any further aggressive action against any human world, our response will escalate accordingly. Thomas is escorted from the chamber by his own security team, Lieutenant Ford having relieved the Council guards of their duty. The representatives break into urgent discussions outside in a private antechamber. Thomas meets with Elena and Admiral Jackson, who have been brought from the diplomatic vessel. The demonstration worked perfectly, Elena reports, reviewing data on her screens. 17 worlds experienced precisely targeted disruptions, all without a single reported injury. Admiral Jackson nods approvingly. The fleet neutralization at New Terra was textbook. Governor Mackenzie reports the Dravian ships are beginning to restore minimal power. Exactly as planned. Thomas sinks into a chair, the calm facade he maintained in the Council chamber giving way to exhaustion. This could have gone very badly. It still might, Jackson cautions. We've shown our hand. Some species will respect our strength, but others will fear it. Fear leads to desperate actions. Elena's screen flashes with an urgent message. Speaking of which, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from 3 Dravian cruisers near the edge of the Sol system. Thomas sits up straight. A secondary attack force? Appears so, Elena confirms. Small but heavily armed. They must have dispatched them before the New Terra operation, planning to strike at Earth itself if their first attack succeeded. Admiral Jackson checks his own tactical display. Sol Defense Command is tracking them. Options? Thomas thinks for a moment. We need to show consistency. Disabled don't destroy unless they fire first. Elena sends the orders, then turns back to Thomas. The Council is watching how we handle this. It's another test. Inside the Council chamber, the debate rages. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities has shattered centuries of assumptions about the galactic power balance. They deceived us all. Morex shouts, his scales flashing with agitation. They presented themselves as a minor power while hiding their true strength. Alar, the ancient Selenite ambassador, floats forward, his amber crystalline body pulsing gently. Did they? Or did we simply see what we expected to see? Humans told us they had defenses. We assumed they were primitive because the humans themselves appeared to be. Xylox turns to Alar. You warned us about them decades ago. What did you see that we missed? I recognize their pattern, Alar replies. My species was once like them, evolving through conflict, developing rapidly, always adapting. But we outgrew it. Humans are still in that dynamic phase, dangerous, yes, but also innovative in ways we have forgotten. The debate is interrupted as new information appears on the central display. 3 Dravian warships approaching Earth, and the Sol defense fleet moving to intercept them. The chamber falls silent as they watch the encounter unfold. The human ships make no aggressive moves, merely positioning themselves between Earth and the approaching Dravian vessels. A communication is broadcast from the human flagship. Dravian vessels. You have entered sovereign Sol space without authorization. Power down your weapons and state your purpose, or you will be disabled. The Dravian commander responds with immediate aggression, firing energy weapons at the human vessels. The beams strike what appear to be standard shields, but instead of being absorbed or deflected, the energy is somehow redirected back toward the Dravian ships, striking their own shield systems with doubled force. Within moments, the Dravian shields fail under their own reflected weapons fire. Before they can fire again, the human vessels emit the same type of energy pulse used at New Terra. The Dravian ships go dark, drifting powerless in space. No destruction. No casualties. Just a swift, efficient neutralization of the threat. In the council chamber, the display shows human rescue vessels already moving to assist the disabled Dravian ships, ensuring their crews will remain safe. Morek sinks back into his seat. All 6 limbs limp in defeat. Xylox turns to the council. I believe we must reconsider our understanding of humanity. They have the power to cause significant harm, yet they consistently choose restraint. Trelex's gaseous form swirls thoughtfully in its containment shell. Perhaps that is the most remarkable thing about them. Not their technology, but their choices. Meanwhile, in the antechamber, Thomas receives the update about the successful defense of Earth. Any casualties? He asks immediately. None, Elena confirms. The Dravian crews are being provided with emergency supplies until their systems can be restored. Admiral Jackson shakes his head in admiration. The reflective shield technology worked even better than in simulations. Research Division will be pleased. Thomas looks out through a viewport at the vast council station. We never wanted to reveal our full capabilities this way. We hope to be accepted as equals without having to demonstrate our strength. Respected, not feared, Elena agrees. But the Dravian consortium left us no choice. What happens after this? Jackson asks. Once the immediate crisis passes? The Earth delegation's ship approaches the massive structure known as the Concord, the new joint headquarters established in neutral space between Council territory and human systems. 6 months have passed since the confrontation that revealed humanity's true capabilities to the galaxy. Ambassador Thomas Reeve stands at the viewport, watching as they dock with the station. The Concord is an architectural marvel, a blend of Council engineering and human design principles, symbolizing the new relationship being forged between humanity and the thousands of other species in the galaxy. Nervous, asks Elena Volkov, now officially appointed as Earth's strategic advisor to the Council. Thomas straightens his formal diplomatic attire. More cautious than nervous. The treaty signing today is historic, but I'm under no illusions about how fragile this peace remains. Admiral Jackson, now commander of Earth's openly acknowledged defense fleet, joins them at the viewport. The Dravians still haven't fully accepted the new reality. Their representative tried to add last-minute amendments to the technology-sharing protocols. Of course they did. Thomas sighs. Their shipping monopoly is the foundation of their power. Our drive technology threatens that directly. Elena checks her datapad. The transition plan gives them 5 years to adapt their business model. That's more than generous. Generosity has its limits, Thomas replies. The final casualty report from their attacks came in yesterday. 2,817 human lives lost over 3 years of covert operations. They fall silent, remembering the cost that led to this moment. The attacks, the ultimatum, the demonstration of power, and finally, the negotiations that followed. As they disembark onto the Concord station, Thomas is greeted by a surprising figure, Alar, the ancient Selenite ambassador whose crystalline body glows with amber light. Ambassador Reeve, Alar's voice resonates gently. I requested the honor of escorting you to the Great Chamber. As they walk through the station's wide corridors, Thomas notices the mixed reactions from representatives of various species. Some offer respectful greetings, others keep a noticeable distance, and a few watch with poorly disguised suspicion. "They're still afraid of us," Thomas observes quietly. Alar's crystalline body pulses softly. Fear and respect often walk hand in hand. "But give it time. My species was once feared as you are now." Thomas looks at the ancient being with surprise. "The Selenites? But you're considered among the most peaceful members of the council." "Now yes," Alar agrees. "But there was a time over 12,000 years ago when the Selenites were expanding rapidly through the galaxy, our technology advancing in ways that frightened older civilizations." "What happened?" "We found balance," Alar says simply. "We learned that our greatest strength was not in our weapons or our shields, but in our ability to build connections between different worlds." They arrive at the Great Chamber, a vast circular space where representatives from over 600 worlds have gathered for the historic treaty signing. At the center stands a simple pedestal, holding the document that will formally establish new protocols between Earth and the Galactic Council. Supreme Arbiter Xylox floats above the pedestal, crystalline form glowing with bright blue energy. Beside him, in a marked break from tradition, stands the President of Earth's United Nations, Eliza Chen, the first human leader to ever visit Council space. As Thomas takes his place among the Earth delegation, he notices Morex, the Dravian representative, watching him with unblinking eyes. The six-limbed being's scales shimmer with suppressed emotion. Xylox's voice resonates throughout the chamber. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. The Treaty of Concord establishes a framework for cooperation between Earth and the Council, recognizing humanity's unique position and contributions to our shared future. President Chen steps forward. "Humanity extends its hand in friendship, not domination. We seek to join the galactic community as equals, sharing our innovations while learning from the wisdom of civilizations far older than our own." The formal speeches continue, touching on the key points of the treaty: technology exchange protocols, territorial recognition, security cooperation, and trade agreements. But Thomas finds himself watching the reactions around the room, gauging the true feelings behind the diplomatic words. When the time comes for signing, Thomas and Elena join President Chen at the pedestal. The human leaders place their hands on the document's biometric scanner, officially committing Earth to the treaty terms. Xylox and representatives from the senior council do the same. As the ceremony concludes, the chamber breaks into smaller groups for the diplomatic reception that follows. Thomas finds himself approached by Morex, the first direct interaction between them since the confrontation 6 months earlier. "Ambassador Reeve," Morex says, his translator conveying his clicking speech into standard language. The Dravian consortium acknowledges the new reality. "We have adjusted our position," Thomas nods politely. "The consortium's cooperation is valued. I understand your shipyards have already begun incorporating elements of our drive technology." Morex's scales ripple. "Under supervision, yes. Though I must ask, how did humans develop such technology independently? Our engineers estimate it would take centuries of focused research." "We think differently," Thomas says simply. "Necessity and competition have always driven human innovation. When resources are limited, we find more efficient ways to use them." "And weaponry?" Morex asks, multiple limbs gesturing subtly toward Admiral Jackson across the room. "Your defensive capabilities were unexpected." Thomas chooses his words carefully. "Humanity hoped for peaceful contact but prepared for the alternative. Our history taught us to be ready for any possibility." Before Morex can respond, they're interrupted by an aide informing Thomas that the Earth delegation is requested for the unveiling of the Concord's central monument. In the station's grand atrium, a large object stands covered by a shimmering field. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gather around as President Chen and Supreme Arbiter Xylox approach it together. This monument symbolizes our shared commitment to understanding and cooperation, Xylox announces, his crystalline form pulsing with light. Together, they deactivate the field, revealing a striking sculpture. Two spirals of different materials intertwining, rising upward together while maintaining their distinct forms. Different paths, shared journey, President Chen explains. Earth commissioned this work from artists representing 12 different species. including human sculptors. As the reception continues, Thomas finds a quiet moment with Elena and Admiral Jackson. "The monument is beautiful," Elena observes, "but I notice it conveniently avoids mentioning how we got here." Jackson nods grimly. No reference to the attacks, the ultimatum, or our demonstration of power. History gets sanitized quickly. Perhaps that's necessary for moving forward, Thomas suggests. Though we should never forget the lessons learned. Lieutenant Ford, formerly disguised as Commander Vexel, approaches their group. After the revelation of his true identity, he had been officially appointed as Earth Security Liaison to the Council. "Sir," Ford addresses Thomas, "thought you should know. The last of our sleeper agents from Phase 1 has been successfully extracted from Dravian territory." Thomas nods acknowledgement. "And Phase 2? "Proceeding as planned," Ford confirms quietly. "The new network is being established according to the revised protocols. More integrated, less invasive, but equally effective for monitoring compliance with the treaty." Thomas sees Alar observing their conversation from across the room, the ancient Selenite's amber form pulsing gently. Thomas excuses himself and approaches the crystalline being. "Your people are still preparing for the worst. Even as you work toward the best," Alar observes. No judgment in his resonant voice. Thomas doesn't deny it. "Old habits. We've spent our entire history surviving by being prepared. The Council does not yet fully understand your kind," Alar says. "They focus on your technology, your weapons, your strategic thinking. They miss the true source of your strength." "Which is?" Thomas asks, genuinely curious. "Adaptability," Alar answers. "In 12,000 years of observing galactic civilization, I have never seen a species that transforms itself as rapidly as humans do. You evolve through conflict, yet you strive for peace. You prepare for war, yet you seek cooperation. You are both, simultaneously." Thomas considers this. Is that a compliment or a warning? "Both," Alar admits, amber light patterns shifting to indicate what Thomas recognizes as amusement. "The galaxy has grown comfortable with stability. Your people bring change, uncomfortable, perhaps necessary change." Their conversation is interrupted as President Chen calls for the attention of the gathered representatives. She stands beside Xylox at the center of the atrium. "Today marks not an ending but a beginning," President Chen announces. "Earth proposes the establishment of a new Galactic Academy of Sciences, open to all species, dedicated to collaborative research for the benefit of all worlds." X